Okay, now I wanted to show a few special features of the brain seed. Number one is save. If you hold down the length button, you'll get some blinking indicating that the brain seed is saving its state. When it comes back up, it's saved everything to the internal memory, and when you reboot your modular, you get back your sequences and your settings and so forth to the state where they were. The next feature is freeze, which is this little input down here. And as I covered before, the freeze can be swapped out for a reset on the back if you're more into that, which will reset the sequencer back to 1. But let's take a look at freeze, which will just basically halt the sequence where it is. So I'm just going to plug in our clock source, which is the maths, into this gate divider, clock divider over here. And then I'm going to plug one of the divisions out into the freeze input. So as you can see, freeze basically gives you a little bit of variation on timing. It can be a lot of fun depending on what you're using it with. And it can be a lot of fun with CV scrub mode too, which is the next feature. So let's see here. Let me unplug freeze. And let's get our clock source going back again. And let's slow it down. So I'm going to go ahead and change my clock mode from bounce pendulum mode. It was in regular mode there. Bounce pendulum mode, random step selection, CV scrub. So the cool thing about this, if you can hear that there's this acceleration and deceleration happening, the reason for that is because the maths is in exponential mode. So as it's rising and falling, it's creating different curves. And so the speed that the brain seed is scrubbing through is changing in time with that. And this can be really fun to trigger off from other devices. Like if you've got a sequencer or a clock divider, you can every once in a while have the brain seed launch off these little bursts of sequences. And also, of course, modulating the maths from another source is a lot of fun. Or, like whatever envelope or CV source you're using, you can modulate the timing of it. You can also modulate the amplitude, because basically what's happening, and once again, you can change the start point of the sequence scrub to either be -5 or 0 volts, and the high end is always going to be 5. But there's a jumper on the back to change between those. But as the maths in this case is cycling and it's going down to 0, then it's going back up to around 5 volts. It's scrubbing through from the beginning to the end of the sequence. We can even do this manually. Let me turn the volume back up here. I'll do this with just a little DC offset here. So like so. So you'll notice that if I change even just the amplitude of the maths output, it'll make a big difference in the response. Can change the curve. Like so. And there are a lot of fun things you can do with that. Like I said, you can launch it off from other sequencers. You can launch it off from, I've done things like I will trigger this, and we'll do this patch later. This was the first video that I did, actually, was just a little patch where I used an external keyboard and used the gate from the keyboard to trigger the envelope, which is a really cool trick. Because then I also got, I've got this little Doepfer MIDI interface, which has an output for the modulation wheel, and I just plugged in the modulation wheel into the CV of the maths and changed its response time. So you get this kind of strumming motion that can change time according to the modulation that you're putting into it. So it's a really fun thing. It's kind of like its own world to explore, the CV scrub, and a lot of people have done really cool things with it.